Despite the abundance of speculation that people have been having about Season 4 of The Dragon Prince and what form it will take when it releases in November, there has been remarkably little analysis of the information that has been given to us on the Dragon Prince's website. Now, I realize that such a website is not a conventional place to look for such information, even though the Dragon Prince website is an incredible vault of information about the show, has all these little short stories and snippets that say a lot about who these characters are and what they've been through, and a lot about the history of the world as well. The Victorian critic Matthew Arnold talks a lot about the importance of escaping insularity, escaping your own little individual bubble, your own perspectives and history and experiences, and venturing onward to explore different cultures, different ideas, different values outside your own, wisdom from different sources. He claims, for instance, that critics should, instead of focusing only on English literature, should develop an interest in a different nationality's literature so as to see what there is beyond the world of English literature. The emphasis is, as it always is for Matthew Arnold, on escaping this narrowness, this very constrained and dogmatic idea of who you are and what you believe and what ideas, perspectives, and values you should ascertain. You should go beyond that. You should be willing to look in unconventional places. You should be willing to explore different conceptions of what has been thought and what has been said and what has been written. You should be looking at history and philosophy and literature. You should incorporate all of this different wisdom so you can form a more broad and comprehensive picture of your basic identity to become your best self instead of a narrow, sectarian, dogmatic self. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that not looking on a silly website is the same as just being only willing to look at the world from a very narrow and very superficial perspective, but I am saying that fanboys often do not have a deep well of knowledge regarding the show they claim to love. When they complain, their complaints show that they have not really thought closely about what a show is doing and why. And sometimes they just make comments that demonstrate that they have only a passing level of awareness of the show they've actually been watching, or the book they've been reading, or the movie they've been watching, or the game they've been playing, and are not really willing to not just take a deeper and more patient look at the intricacies and ambiguities of the work itself, but to look at all the material surrounding the work, and to look at, say, what different critics have said, their different opinions and voices and ideals. It's this insularity that I'm really not a fan of. Not saying the Dragon Prince fandom is particularly bad at this. In fact, it's definitely one of the better ones in being willing to look beyond just what's overtly given to us on the surface of the show and look at, say, the philosophical and historical parallels for what's going on in the show. But I do think you should be willing, if you're really someone who wants to call yourself a dedicated fan, to at least get a basic sense of what's been going on outside the show itself in terms of reading the graphic novels and looking at things on the website. Not to say you're not a real fan if you don't do that. That kind of categorization is obviously vacuous. But if you're looking for answers, you should be willing to look for them yourself and do some research instead of just complaining on YouTube or Reddit. Enough preambling. The Dragon Prince website gives you a lot of information about Season 4. it tells exactly what has happened since the end of Season 3, which is quite a lot considering that we've been dealing with a 2-year time gap. Amaya and Janai are now ruling the Sun Fire Elves and trying to rebuild the lost kingdom that has been completely devastated by Aaravos. Ezrin has stepped into the role of being the king. Soren is more comfortable serving as a force for good and of peace. And the demons that tormented him have, it seems, started to lessen. But by far the most information the franchise provides in its little website is about Claudia. And it is this information that is also very concerning because it pertains to what she has been willing to do in order to bring her father back, and how Team Callum is going to have to confront Claudia as they progress through the tumults and anxieties that are going to torment them in Season 4. Claudia not appearing is the big frayed end that has the potential to cause a lot of instability and uncertainty on a societal level in Season 4. Now, Callum is suffering through a great loss. He has no contact with Rayla, the person he deeply loves and the person he wanted to spend his life with, because she left him and he doesn't really know why. He's been dealing with all those questions, not just the pain of losing Rayla, but the bitter uncertainty of not really knowing what was in her mind, why exactly she left, or if she's ever going to come back. And that uncertainty is honestly worse than the pain, most likely, for Callum. But as deeply unfortunate as Callum's circumstances are, and as much as they leave him vulnerable to the manipulation of Aaravos, that is not the major point from which real societal instability will likely come at first in Season 4. No, that will come from Claudia, who has been brooding in her resentment for the last several years, trying desperately to save her maniacal father. And we find out from what the website reveals that while she likely did resort to dark magic, it wasn't just that. She was willing to do a lot more. Dark magic is basically a form of industrialization. It's not a perfect parallel, but it is close enough. It is something that gives humanity increased power over the natural world, allowing us to perform seemingly impossible feats of strength and authority and power, but at the expense of isolating us from the natural world, from the basic order of the cosmos that has been disrupted by the use of dark magic, by the instrumentation of the world in which we live in, which becomes simply a tool to power the abilities of dark magic. But Claudia goes a step further by directly working with Aaravos. Specifically, she has made a deal with Aaravos, likely under duress. She does not seem to be a major fan of Viren's little bug pal, even at the start of Season 4, but he is the reason that Viren is alive. With his help, she brought Viren back to life, but Viren will only stay alive for 30 days. In this 30 days, Claudia has to make a lot of difficult choices. She has to decide whether she is willing to set Aaravos free. She has to plan out a scheme to set him free, and she is likely going to have to confront Team Callum, including Callum, whom she once deeply loved, in order to set Aaravos free. It is a scenario that is organic in that this is absolutely what Claudia and Aaravos would do in this particular circumstance, but it's also great narrative storytelling because it forces Claudia to be active. It forces her to confront a changed world that she has grown increasingly resentful toward. And it forces her to confront our heroes. The website even says in its description of Season 4 that she is going to try to unleash Aaravos on the world, and that our team of heroes is going to have to stop her from doing so. I have a feeling they will not succeed. Claudia is as crafty as she is amoral. As sweet and bubbly as she can be, she's always had a penchant for the forbidden, the dark, the concealed, for all the secrets of the world that the good and moral and just people of the human kingdoms think shouldn't be used. It's not that she was completely immoral at the start of the show, but she always had a very flexible sense of morality that, when challenged by Aaravos, completely cracked and crumbled, leading her into this obsessive, monomaniac amorality. Reviving Aaravos would be something unforgivable, as Better Call Saul puts it. It is not simply that she hasn't done anything cruel or nefarious before. Think about her willingness to kill Ezrin. Think about her willingness to fulfill Viren's dictates at the start of Season 1 that the princes be killed if necessary. Think about, most overtly, how she was willing to side with her father even as he was creating an army of dark magic zombies, and lead that army into battle at the end of Season 3. She's made a lot of questionable choices, but if she is the person to unleash despair and darkness and brutality on the world, it is going to be much, much harder for her to find any sort of peace or serenity at any point in her life. It is quite agonizing to see Claudia go down this path, but with Aaravos' help, there is likely no turning back for her, at least for a good long while. So anyway, thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can, and you want to see more videos just like this one. Keep watching The Dragon Prince. I can't wait to see what the show comes up with in Season 4. Do you think our lovable dork is going to become a more hard-hearted villain than Viren was? Sound off in the comments. Anyway, tune in soon for our next analysis. It will be coming soon, promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.